JJAX. Today, I want to talk about how I made this hip-hop, trap, rage-ish type beat. It's the first track from the EP album that I released this year, Recap, and the title of the song is Real Me 3. So let's just dive straight into it. Session looks like this. We have the instruments, we have the bass elements, and then we have the drums and a couple of effects. Let's start with the introduction. So I originally started making this song with a simple electric guitar loop. Nothing too fancy, but I reamped it, EQ'd it a bit, put another guitar plugin in, smoothed it with Soothe, and then just a little bit of leveling, and also adding a bit of reverb and delay. But this was a bit boring, so I added a synth to follow the chords of the guitars. But, the sound's a bit ugly, so I had to EQ it, put some reverb on it, an exciter. This is the intro, right? So I didn't want it to be majestic from the start. So what I did was I also put on a low pass filter so that we slightly open up the synth. And we also have a bass element right underneath that. It's a serum. Actually, most of the instruments today are serum instruments. So we have an imager. I also saturated the low end a bit. Did some EQing. And same like the chord synths, this is also automated. After that part, we have a synth playing a counter melody. Also a serum synth, but it sounds a bit ugly. A lot of EQ, decapitator, and reverb. And on that, we also have another synth playing an arpeggio. I needed that to also cut through a bit, so added some distortion, a lot of reverb, more distortion, L2, did a little bit of EQ, and this is also automated. We have a brass, also a synth, that plays another counter melody. Now, next, we have to move to the verse. I started with just playing with the drums. It's a very simple drum pattern, kick snare and hi-hat. And on that, I added bass. And this is a Reese bass-ish type of bass, which sounds originally like this. But I added an imager just to mono the low end. Just L2 for a little bit of clipping. And then I added more distortion with Fuel. And this is kind of unorthodox, but I also added a reverb plugin, Valhalla, just because I wanted the highs to slightly fly around. So as you can see, it has a low cut enabled, and I adjusted the mix. So yeah, you see that high end slightly fluttering around. Added another imager, more saturation with Saturn, some EQ, and more EQ just to shape the low end a bit. And then we move on to the lead synth, which sounds like this. And the lead melody is... but kind of boring, right? So what I did was I added some saturation, and then I added sidechain. So we have a bit of movement, right? And then more distortion, some reverb, and then I added a panner so that the lead synth moves from left to right, so we can also feel that there is more movement. And then a little bit of EQ. I think I dropped the mids here a bit, just so there's more room for the vocals. We need more. So what I did was I also added some effects. In the context of the beat, it sounds like this. And after 4 bars, we need to have a slight change. So the octave of the synth and the samples change. So it sounds like this. But I wanted a little bit of transition. So what I did was I added another synth just to kind of impact the new transition. I don't like that. So, saturation, sidechain again, reverb, and EQ. And then I also added a widener for some image so that it doesn't directly clash with the lead synth. And in the context of the beat, now, after the verse, we move on to the next section, which is the bridge. Here, the synth lead is half-timed. And we got 808s. I wanted more energy. So what I did was I add some more chords. That's very similar to the chord synths in the introduction, and another arpeggio that is also similar to the one in the introduction. Now we move on to the outro, which is basically the same structure as the intro section, but it's just chords, the synths, and the bass again. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, the song is Real Me 3 from my EP Recap. It's in my YouTube channel, so listen to the original song. Thank you.